And our word for today on this Thursday of the first week in Ordinary Time, this Thursday, January the 16th, our word for today is CURED. CURED, our word for today, and here to talk about it, Andrew Reinhart. Good morning, Andrew.
Hey, Andrew.
Good morning, Dave and Ron. How are you?
Doing
Wonderful.
Great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Doing great. I got to say, Dave, you really brought it this morning. You know, if people are left dissatisfied by the reflection I'm going to share, go back to Dave's reflection this morning. Annunciation Radio posted on the YouTube and their website. So it was great, Dave. Kudos to you.
Thank you very much, Andrew.
So our word for the day is cured, and this is from our gospel response to the Alleluia. It says, Jesus preached the gospel of the kingdom and cured every disease among the people. You know, this is interesting. I love this idea, preaching the gospel of the kingdom and curing every disease. You know, and as I read that sentence, I could read it as if these are two separate things, right? The preaching of the gospel of the kingdom and the curing of every disease, as if those are two separate actions. But I want to propose that there's something deeply related about these two actions. If you think of different kinds of cures, and I love the that framework you shared from Father Spitzer earlier, Dave, on why God sometimes doesn't cure and why God sometimes does.
Right.
I think of curing sometimes on a 2x2 axis. On the one side, you might consider individual cures and then group cures or relational cures, society or spreading out beyond one person. On the other side, you might think of natural and supernatural. Right, so we have some cures that are supernatural, and for us, you know, the curing of the wound of sin, of the effect of original sin, of the brokenness of our heart. But then also a supernatural cure of our relationship with God, right? The separation between us and God, that gap between humanity and the Lord, and between us and the church sometimes too. And of course, we know that confession provides healing for that. On the other side, we have natural cures, like the curing of our society, the ills of society, the brokenness of the structures of the world. And then individually, we have the curing of us, our body, right? Some wound, some disease, some brokenness, maybe a birth defect, etc. Some supernatural cure of the body. You know, in this case, I want to propose that ordinarily, the Lord is curing us individually and societally on a supernatural level, right? The cure is always directed toward our salvation, toward our relationship with God and the curing of the human heart. And then that framework that you shared earlier, Dave, is really directed toward these natural realities of society and of the body. You know, sometimes God doesn't cure those realities. He leaves them there because, like you said, it's not in our best interest, or it's not for the building up of the kingdom. In our gospel today, we have this curing of this leper as a beautiful example of this. And of course, there's kind of this wonkiness, right? Because Jesus tells him to go and follow the prescription of the law, go to the temple and make his offering. And this guy went around, you know, sort of, for lack of better terms, blabbing about it.
He had one thing to do.
He had one thing to do. And what this implies maybe is that maybe he didn't ever go to the temple and make that offering, right? The gospel doesn't tell us. But there's a result of this. This is in the first chapter of Mark, right? So Jesus is just baptized. He goes out into the desert, and he comes back and does this cure. And then it says, as a result of this guy not following Jesus' directions, he can't even enter a town. He's too popular. Right. When I hear this, I always get visions of those old videos of the Beatles running around and the crowd chasing him around. But what's interesting is it said he remained out in the deserted place. He goes back out into the deserted place, out in the wilderness again, where he was during the 40 days after his baptism. And it said the people kept coming out to him from everywhere. And I think there's something beautiful in here, because I think going out into the deserted place is part of the cure. In our first reading from the book of Hebrews, it says, "Harden not your heart as at the rebellion in the day of testing in the desert." Right? When the chosen people pick up the disease of idolatry in Egypt, God takes them out into the wilderness to make sacrifices to him and then to receive the law. And they continue to kind of relapse and to complain and to have this hardness of heart. The author of the book of Hebrews later says, "Take care, brothers and sisters, that none of you may have evil and unfaithful heart, so as to forsake the living God." Right? God's offering this deeper cure of the heart, this hardness of heart, the seed of sin. You know, so as in the church, I think of this season as pre-Lent, this little snippet of ordinary time we have, and Lent tends to sneak up on all of us.